All right, hello everybody. Today we're going to learn about how to draw the face with accurate proportion, but also how to shade the facial features to make them look three-dimensional. Here, the facial features are drawn, relatively accurate proportions, but they look very flat. They do not look like they are popping out of the page, which is what we want to do for our self-portraits. So I'm going to start with my general egg-shaped head. And remember, the head is like an upside-down egg. So don't draw your egg right side up. You want the smaller part on the bottom. And notice how I am going slow. I'm not just drawing a quick little circle or oval. I'm really taking my time and making sure that I have an accurate shape. Okay, my chin is around. All right, so I have a general shape here. I'm going to erase some of this, try to make it symmetrical. All right, now notice how I didn't even finish it, but that's okay because we're going to add some shading and features, and it's going to be complete toward the end. But it's important that you draw light first. Then I'm going to draw my grid on the outside of my skull or my head. I'm going to get pretty close to the sides and then hug the chin. I'm going to hug the chin and the top of the head, and when I say hug, I mean just get really, really close to it. And then I'm going to split it into 4 spaces using 3 lines. So I'm going to cut it in half. Just do your best to eyeball it, see, how you can make 2 equal parts. And then you can make those 2 equal parts and 2 more equal parts so that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And then divide it down the middle. Okay, that's about middle. So we're going to put the nose. We talked about how to put the nose at this line, this little squiggly nose here. Okay. Then our eyes, remember the 5-eye rule. When you're drawing your eyes on your face, they go in the spaces between those 3 eyes on either side because the face is 5 eye lengths wide. Okay. So the eyes that you have are roughly in this position, these 2. You're going to erase, and if it helps you to draw those 3 other eyes, please do it. I'm going to erase those other 2 eyes. And if I erase some of my line, that's okay. I can just redraw it or leave it not drawn, and that's okay. And then my lips are, if you find a halfway mark in these boxes, you're going to draw a horizontal line. And that horizontal line, these are some tricks I have for you. The center of the eye lines up with the end of the lips perfectly. So you should draw your lips as wide as the center of your eyes are. And another thing I have to share with you is, like I have here, the corners of your eyes align with the edges of your nostrils. So draw those lines when you're sketching out your face, but then we're going to erase them because I don't need them anymore, and they will confuse me. Okay. So I have my center lip line, and I'm just going to do a brief outline of the lips. Remember, I have my little bird here, my little bird flapping his wings, whose wings come to a point at the center, at the edges of my lip. And then I have a smiley face that also comes to the edges or the corners of my lip. Okay, so I have my general lips outlined here. Keep them really light because we don't want hard outlines around our lips. And I will explain why later if I have not already shared in class. Okay, so we're going to just start with the nose since that's what we started with in class. Okay, so you have your squiggly line, and it's really important to, if you're drawing the edges of your nose, we are very, very tempted as beginning artists to draw the edge of the nose really hard, just like, so we have eyes here, you know, and that's how we want to draw the nose. And this is how we want to draw the lips, right? Like a little, oops, like a little Mr. Potato Head. We want to draw the nose with really hard outlines like that, and nostrils like that, and we just don't want to do that because we are 7th graders and we're capable of drawing realistic faces. And then once you could do that, once you have these skills, then you can draw any type of face that you want with as many expressions and cartoon features if you'd like. You can do whatever you want, but we're going to learn how to do this first, okay? So where was I? So the nose. The bridge of your nose, these are not hard outlines. If you look at anyone's nose, is anyone's nose outlined? No. We have this bridge in our nose that connects the tip of the nose to the middle of our eyebrows. And those edges should not be defined by outlines, but by shadow, by value. So we will draw very light lines to define them. And we will bring those lines up to where the eyebrows will be. And then we will shade really lightly outside of those lines as the nose goes into the cheeks in our face. Okay. Shade, shade, shade. And now I'm going to take my finger or my tissue. Okay. You can take either one and you can blend those pencil marks, your graphite, into the face, and it will make it softer. And notice how I'm not just going like this. We do not want to just shade all over everything because we want to keep those defined marks where they are, because that's what is defining our nose, those edges of our nose. We want to keep the middle more highlighted, right? Doesn't have as much shadow. I'm going to erase that line just to prevent confusion. And then another thing you can do with the nose is, I'll show you on this example here, you can also add some shadow on the bottom of your nose, like the little edge here, and bring that shadow just a little bit up the nose. So you're kind of rounding out the tip of your nose. And I'm just going to spread some of that out. Okay, I have a really pointy nose here, and you can make it as wide as you want. You can connect some of your shadow to it. You can add some shadow to the edges of your nostrils. You can bring your nostrils just a little bit higher up, right? Play around with it, but see how much more three-dimensional it looks. And I'm just going to add a little bit of shadow under my nostrils, and then a shadow under the nose, like this, because maybe the light is being blocked by my three-dimensional nose, right? If the light is coming from here, I might have a shadow that goes down here, right, depending on where I am in the light. If I go like this, you see the shadow much more intensely. So I'm going to just spread this out a little bit, blend it. Okay. Now, the nose is pretty much done. I'm going to move on to the eyes. And the eyes are, we talked about how they are a general almond shape. The bottom is a little bit more flat than the top. And we're going to try to make them as symmetrical as possible. And the iris inside the eye is covered by that eyelid because we have a three-dimensional sphere in our skull, and our eyelid is covering that sphere. I know it's freaky to look at my eyeball like that, but our eyelid, see how it's rounded? Even when we close our eyes, we see a round form under there. That's because we have eyeballs. Okay, so this eyelid covers part of our iris. And it also makes us look a little bit less shocked, right? If I open my eyes really wide, you see almost all of my iris. But if I just have them resting, you only see part of it, right? And it makes me look more relaxed. We want to look relaxed. Okay, so then we draw our pupil in the center of the eye. Okay, just drew the pupil. And then before we start shading it, I want to add the eyelid. And I should bring this demo here so you can see a finished version. So I started with some simple shadows up here and the outline of my eyebrow up here. And my eyelid, if you look at my eyes, you can see that I have a very subtle line up there. So we want to add that line too. And some people don't have really a defined eyelid. Some people, their eyes are a little bit more open, or their indent is more shallow, like it doesn't go as deep in. So our eyelids, sometimes people don't have as much space between their eyelid and or the edge of their eyelid and like the indent under their eyebrow. So it varies for sure. And I'm just going to draw my eyebrows, which are these kind of upside down frowns, or not upside down frowns, upside down smiles. In other words, a frown above my eye. And then I will start shading my eye. So when you shade your eye, because your eyelid covers the top part of your eye, even the white in your eye has a little bit of shadow. So we want to cover this with a little bit of shading, and this will look more realistic. So I'm going to do the same with the other eye, going really light, just shading the top part of my eye, including my iris. And then in my iris, I'm going to shade darker, and I'm going to press even harder to shade the outside of my iris and the top, because it's darker definitely than the white of my eye. And then my pupil will obviously be the darkest. So I went very dark in my iris and my pupil. The outside of your iris is typically darker than the inside of the iris. Okay, dark, dark, dark. And I left some of my pupil highlighted because sometimes we have highlights in our eyes, and I just left it in the pupil to keep it simple. But a highlight in your eye could be anywhere. All right, I'm going to make this a little darker, the eyelid. Okay, and then my tear ducts in the corners of my eyes, those pink spots right there that everyone has, those you could shade a little bit in the corners, the inside corners. Okay, I'm going to make this a little bit more defined. And my eyelashes. When I draw eyelashes, actually we'll do one more thing before we do eyelashes. The eyelid up here, this has some shadow. Since it's indented, it has some shadow above the line. And we'll just take our tissue or our finger and spread that, blend it out so it looks a little bit more three-dimensional. And then we have more shadow inside our eyes by our nose. So I'll make that more dark. And already, look how three-dimensional that looks, just by adding some darker shadows. You don't want to go too dark. Don't make it too intense. All right, blend it out and do some shadow above my eyelid and blend it out. All right, so now my eyelashes. When you draw eyelashes, I'm just going to draw a little example eye here. Your eyelashes, you don't want to draw like SpongeBob. SpongeBob has straight eyelashes like this. We do not want those on our real person because they're real and they're not SpongeBob. So we're going to curve our eyelashes. I'm going to zoom in. Move this over. Okay. So we'll curve them, and as we go, we make some longer, some thinner, some shorter, and I'm just flicking my pencil from the base of the eyelid really, really lightly. I'm hardly touching the paper when I do that, okay? Same thing on that side. They are longer toward the outside edge of the eye and shorter, generally, toward the inside corner. Okay, some are darker, some lighter. So vary your eyelashes so they look real. You're also going to do that same flicking motion for your eyebrows. So you're going to start with the largest hairs in the front, and I'm just following this line. And as I go, my hairs are going to go horizontal, and they're going to start curving down. And then from the top, they converge. All right, so they go two different directions. All right, so I didn't put too many hair. You don't want to, too many hairs. You don't want to put too many. So same thing over here from the top. Okay, flicking, not pressing hard. All right, we'll just leave it at that. The lips. The center line is always the darkest. And if you look at lips, they're generally all different shapes, but most of the time they have like a darker spot right here, and it goes down and then down back to the corners of your lip. So you can bend that line down a little bit, you can bend it up. It depends if you're smiling, you know, your lips can be all different shapes, but you don't want to just make a horizontal flat line because that won't add any dimension. So you're going to shade the top lip first, and your line that outlines the lip should not be any darker than the inside shadow of your lip. Okay, meaning I don't want to see a lip like this that has an outline and shading like that. I don't want to see a hard outline with some shading like that. No. Okay, we don't like that. So no outline should show anymore. All right, and then I'm going to shade the outside of my lip here, but I'm going to leave it lighter in the middle because there's usually a highlight on the bottom of your lip. If you look at mine, compare. If you just look at my lips, you can't even see if I do that. Look at the value of my top lip versus my bottom lip. The top lip is darker. So we're going to darken this a little bit. And we're going to make the center line just a little bit darker to show depth. Okay, so pretty simple. I mean, it's going to take some practice to shade, but we didn't do much to make it look three-dimensional. Okay, it's just a matter of getting the right values in the right places. Okay, so we're basically done with the facial features. I'm not going to touch anything else because we don't want to make them too drastic. If I were to outline the nose more, you know, it might not look as real. But now we want to make the rest of the face look three-dimensional. As of now, this all looks very flat. So I want to add shadows like when you put on makeup and you add that contour, right, girls? You know that when you put contour lines on your face or contour makeup, you are highlighting your cheekbone or putting a shadow under your cheekbone so that it looks more defined, right? So we want to kind of do that because everybody has some sort of dimension to their face. Typically, we have higher cheekbones and more indented jaw, right? Because if you're looking at an actual skull, the jaw is thinner than the rest of your skull. So we're going to take some shadow, and we're going to blend it out in a circular motion. Blend it, and blend it all the way down to the lips, up to the forehead, okay, and it'll be darkest around the cheek area. And I'll do the same on this side. Really light, I'm doing really light pencil marks. Because if you press really hard, then you'll probably just see the pencil lines and it won't look soft, and you don't want that. Okay, now her face looks pretty, and I'm just going to call it a girl because she looks kind of feminine. So her face looks a little bit wide, and that's because she doesn't have any hair. So we want to add hair, and for the sake of just not having any reference photo in front of me, besides for if you don't, like if we're looking at this photo right here, we see the hairline that comes into the head, right? We drew the outline of the head without hair, but the hair is going to be within some of that head, just like this guy has, okay? So we're going to see how far down, I'll just use me for a reference, how far down does my hairline come in comparison to the rest of my head? Only a little bit. It doesn't come all the way down here, right? Unless I had bangs. If my bangs came down, maybe they'd be down here, but they don't, okay? So we're going to start my hairline probably down here a little bit. And then I'm just going to look at where, you know what, I'll put my hair behind my ears so that I can see my ears and we can draw them. So I will bring my hair over here, and my ear, oh, another thing that you can remember for position of facial features is the ears typically always start about where the eyes start, or the height of the eyes, and the ears end at the bottom of the nose. So I'm going to put my ears kind of in this facial outline because I'm just going to bring in the outline of the face so it's a little bit less wide. I'm going to erase these lines. Okay, so my ears are in here, and they're just kind of these little pancakes that stick out of my ears, my face. Okay, so I'll just draw them like that, and my chin comes down here, and my hair goes behind my ear like so, and the top of my head, it's not exactly flat. I'm going to give it a little bit of a bump, 2 bumps, and my hair comes out this way, out here, a little bit thicker, and comes out like this. And I'm going to give it some wave. I don't want to just make straight lines. That's kind of boring, right? Now, before I start drawing hair, it's important to note that, we have necks. That's a thing. We definitely need a neck. We want to shade in this part where my hair blocks all of the light from getting to the side of my neck. And so I'm going to take my finger again, my pencil, shade, blend it out. Okay, and so now I have some dimension behind my hair, right? There's some space there that doesn't get any light. I can even add some hair. And so in this drawing, if we worked on this, the hair is not fully, I didn't draw every strand of the hair in the head. We only have to draw enough to convince you that this is hair, right? So just enough. We don't have to draw all of it. I'm just going to plug in my computer there. Okay. So I'm not going to draw every strand of hair, and I'm going to bring this a little bit further down. Okay, and I'm going to start in the middle, and my hair is just going to follow the curve of my head. Some strands are going to be longer, some shorter, some lighter, some darker, just like my eyebrows and my eyelashes. And I'm going to give it some wave, make them go pretty much all in a similar direction. And then finally I would shade in some of my hair because my hair is not white. It has some value to it. I'm just going to give some value under my chin because it looks a little not defined enough. So I'm going to shade a little bit before I shade my hair. Take your pencil, give it some shadow, blend it out with your finger or your tissue. Okay, so I have a neck now. Woohoo! All right, and now I'm going to shade a little bit of my hair. It's darker on this side. Some parts of it, like I have a dark shadow under this part of my hair. I'm going to give that some shadow. This is darker in here, and darker down here, and darker toward my ear, and toward my roots. And I'm just going to blend it all out, make it look smooth. I'm going to go right over my ear, right over all my hair. All right, so now my hair has some value. And now I just want to define my ears a little bit more, finally. When you draw your ears, they're kind of complicated, but they're really not. They're just a few simple lines. You just want to give it your little bump in here, separate it from your face a little, okay? Give it a little bump, and then your crease that has shadow underneath it. Okay, I feel like that's all you really need to define them as ears. So your crease and your bump, and that is all I'm really gonna ask you to do. You can even shade a little bit past your bump, a little bit above your bump, and you can spread it out, blend it in, and yeah, I feel like then you can erase your lines that you don't need anymore. And you're pretty much done. Here's your face. She's not very happy, but next time you make a face, you can try to make a smiling mouth, and if you need help with that, we can work on it. All right? Thanks for watching. Hope everyone enjoyed and that you're doing great on your facial features. Good luck.